Guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope you are having a fantastic start to your day. This video might come as a shock to those of you who have been following me for a while, but I'm talking about a liquid foundation today. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the Youthforia Date Night Skin Tint Serum Foundation. This little bad boy here. I picked this up from Ulta in the shade 180. So I wanted to give you guys some thoughts. I also have a demo in this video. So if you want to see how I have been applying this, the demo will be towards the middle of the video here. But again, if you've been here for quite some time, you know that my usual go-to is powder foundation. For me, the Laura Geller Balance and Brighten is the bee's knees, if you will. However, I have been wearing powder foundation now for I think over 2 decades. I started in the very, very early 2000s with the Bare Minerals powder foundation. I'm sure most of us remember the Bare Minerals infomercials from back in the day. I think most of us, if we watched QVC with our moms, probably remember Leslie being on QVC with her Bare Minerals products. And as soon as I tried powder foundation, I was like, yes, this is it. This is what my oily skin needs. It's just been a good fit for me this entire time. Now, I have tested some liquid foundations here and there because there's always, you know, other oily skinned people out there who give recommendations. So I've gotten a ton of samples from Sephora for different liquid foundations that were specifically designed for an oily skin type. And I can tell you that I did not like any of them. They all felt very heavy on my skin. I feel like liquid foundations have always settled into my pores. I do have enlarged pores, which is common with oily skin. I find that the foundation separates when the oil starts to break through, which for me is usually fairly early on in the day. I think that my skin is definitely in a very different place now than it was in the early 2000s. I'm not looking to cover up as much anymore. I'm not breaking out as much. I don't deal with as many blackheads, things like that. And that is thanks to a pretty hefty skincare routine. But that being said, for me, powder foundation, I still think just looks the best. However, when this was released, I was like, let's try it. Now, I do have to wear the foundation with the Youthforia Pre-Game Primer. They say that this is a daily protective primer. This video isn't about this primer, but I wanted to mention that I have worn this on its own. It's a no-go on its own. It lasted about probably 3 hours before things just started sliding off my face. But with this primer, I get at least 8 hours of wear out of the foundation. So I just want you to know that my recommendation is if you already have a great primer, use that one. But if you don't have one, personally for me, these two have to be used together. If they're not, then this is a no-go. I want to read through the claims of this product and then we'll go ahead and get into the demo. I will say their shade range is, they only have 15 options. I do think it should maybe be expanded just a little bit, and that might be coming down the pipeline. The bottle is 1.18 ounces, so just over an ounce, and it retails for $42. So I'll just read their little blurb here. Youthforia's Date Night Skin Tint Serum Foundation provides a weightless glass skin finish formulated with 68% skincare actives and patented tannin complex to control sebum production. It melts into skin for effortless, everyday, long-lasting wear that's safe to sleep in. I would not recommend sleeping in a foundation ever, but I mean, I guess if you have to. So they say that this is a medium buildable coverage. It has weightless, luxurious texture that sinks into the skin like quicksand for no caking or settling into fine lines. I do think that underneath my eyes, I have a couple of lines that just kind of come out this way underneath my lash line. It does want to settle into those lines, but what I do is once I'm done with all my makeup, all I do is take a little tiny bit of just a setting powder and I press that into that area and it takes away that little bit of settling there. So no big deal. And yeah, it's silicone free. And it is made with non-comedogenic ingredients. I can tell you that this has not made me break out at all. I don't feel like this clogs my pores. It removes really easily at the end of the day. And when applied with a beauty blender, which is what I've been using, I think it gives me light medium coverage. If you are looking for additional coverage, I do think that you could add an additional layer onto the skin. You might also be able to use a, I don't like brushes for applying liquid foundation, but if you do have a dense brush like this BK 101, this might be a good fit to then also build the coverage a little bit in areas where you need it the most. I have melasma on my forehead, and while this doesn't cover it completely, I think it disguises it enough to where like I don't really notice it. I don't completely cover up my melasma every single day. I definitely go over it with powder foundation, but I don't go out of my way to completely blank it out. I don't care that much. So if people know I have melasma, then I have melasma. So at any rate, let's go ahead and get into the demo, and then we'll finish it out. So let's get into it. All right, friends, let's go ahead and apply the foundation. I'm just gonna make sure my hair doesn't flop into my face. Okay, I do have my Paula's Choice Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense SPF 30 as my SPF today. This was the last step in my skincare routine, and it's been about 20 minutes since I applied that, so I feel like my face is ready to go. So I am gonna start with the Youthforia Pre-Game Primer. Really love this stuff. I actually really like this for my powder foundation as well. Although I will say, it is kind of hard to get out. Anyway, I've got a little bit here, and I'm just gonna spread that. Actually, you know what, this is easier for me to do looking in the mirror, so bear with me. So put a little bit on my forehead here. I'm putting this mainly like in my T-zone where I'm the oiliest, but I do generally spread it all around my face. So I found that it works best to tap it in. So far, I have not had any issues. Sorry, my bangs are wanting to like flop down into my face already. So far, I have not had any issues with pilling or anything like that. But I don't know, a lot of the skincare products that I use in the morning are lightweight essences, so I don't use a lot of heavy moisturizers. Something maybe worth keeping in mind depending on what your skincare routine is. But for me, no issues with pilling or anything like that. So once that is on the skin, I like to just give that like a second to kind of dry down. I'm gonna be using a beauty blender to apply the foundation. I have not tried a brush in terms of application. I've used my fingers. I really didn't like putting it on with my fingers. I think for me the sponge is probably the way to go, but I don't know. You can definitely try a brush like the BK 101. I think this might be worth a try with this liquid foundation, but for me, I don't know. I'm not really into the brushes for this purpose. So the shade that I have is 180. I try to shake this up just a little bit, and then I like to apply some to the back of my hand. I'll just do like a pump and a half, and that's pretty good for me. And then I just take some on a slightly dampened sponge, and I just start applying it. I think this does provide pretty good coverage. You can see how that takes that redness out of my skin very quickly. I also think the slight green tinge from the primer also helps to disguise a little bit of that redness in my skin. But man, that's a pretty finish. For a liquid, you guys know I really don't love the liquid foundations, but for a liquid, I think this does have a very pretty finish. So you can kind of see the coverage from just one light layer this side compared to this side that just has the primer. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on the other side. I bring this right underneath my eyes. I don't use a concealer. I don't really need one. I'm lucky in that right now I don't really deal with dark circles. Dark circles have never really been an issue for me. But I would assume that most concealers would work well with this. I wish I could be a little bit more help when it comes to like concealers, but I don't use them. I have one here from Pacifica that I think provides pretty good coverage. This is their Dreamlit Glow Concealer. This one's pretty affordable. I'm not sure about the color range, but this might be worth a try if you're on a budget. I feel like you have to work somewhat quick with this, but it doesn't dry down like crazy fast. So just taking it right underneath the eyes. I don't feel like it really settles into the creases too much. But if I do have a little bit of that, I just go back in with my sponge and kind of press that in. But this is what we have with just one light layer. So I think it does a decent job of covering up the melasma. I mean, you can definitely see it a little bit still, especially up here where it's a little bit darker. But for the most part, I feel like this is pretty decent coverage. So I feel like that's a pretty good color match for me overall. So I'm gonna go ahead and just finish it off with a little bit of setting powder. I'm gonna use the Fenty, what's this called? The Pro Filter Instant Retouch Setting Powder. There's no way that I can't set this, not with my oily skin. So I'm just gonna do a really light dusting of this, and that should be plenty. So I've just got a little fluffy brush here, and I'm gonna do my little trick where I tap the product into the brush so that it kind of fluffs up and onto the skin as I'm blending the powder into the skin. This sets this foundation really, really nicely. He heard a dog barking in the background there, but he's fine. All right, you guys, so this is pretty much it. So definitely gives me a nice blank canvas, right? So now I feel like I can go in with the remainder of my makeup. Everything else that I'm using today, it's gonna be powder products. I don't really like cream products on my skin, but I feel like this provides a really nice base. The coverage, definitely light to medium, somewhat buildable, but I don't think you're gonna, if you're looking for like crazy heavy coverage, I'm not sure this is the right fit for you. But this is super, super comfortable, and I think it looks really nice on my skin. Have a little bit of that melasma showing through, but I mean, I don't care if people see that. It's a thing. I have melasma. So, but yeah, that is the finish on my skin. So I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup, and then I'll be back to finish this video out. All right, friends, I went ahead and finished up the rest of my makeup here. If you're curious about what I used, check the description box. I will have everything listed and linked down there. But let's take a look at my face up close here so that you can see what the foundation looks like after it has been on my skin for just about an hour. So I feel like it's really settled into my skin at this point. So decent coverage with just that one really light layer for sure. It just kind of evened things out a little bit for me. But I will say the one thing that I notice more with liquid foundation is that it tends to accentuate the look of my pores. And the Youthforia Date Night is no exception. I just think that for me personally, with my particular oily skin and my enlarged pores, powder foundation just sits on my skin easier. It just looks prettier on my skin. That being said, I think this is the first liquid foundation that I have tested out that I think is a good fit when paired with the primer for oily skin. The amount of wear time that I get out of this is probably about 8 hours before it starts to break down on my skin, and that is just the oil coming through. For me, when my oil breaks through this particular liquid foundation, it does start to kind of separate a little bit, and it doesn't look super great. So this is not the type of foundation that I would personally choose to wear if I was looking for something that needed to get me through like a full day. Say if I was going to an event, I would not opt for this. I would go with my powder foundation routine because I know how to get that to last, you know, 12, 14, 16 hours if I have to. This would not be able to get me there. So am I a convert to liquid foundation? Probably not. Another thing that I have to kind of remind myself when using a liquid foundation is that you have to wait for that dry down before you can go in with your powder products. If you tend to want to go in a little bit early with your contour or your blush, one of the things that I found is that it definitely wants to catch. So you have to wait just a little bit before going in with the powder products, but that's just a learning curve thing for me. However, it's just not something that I have to worry about with my powder foundation, right? Like everything is kind of dry to begin with. So I just go in and I'm able to get through my routine a little bit faster. This takes me longer, and then on top of it, it doesn't last quite as long into the day in terms of the wear. So do I still recommend both of these products for oily skin? Yes. If you are an oily skinned girl who absolutely has to have a liquid foundation, I think this one is great. It's somewhat buildable. And with this pre-game primer, this really is the game changer here. So I think for me, while I probably don't necessarily see myself repurchasing this anytime soon, it'll take me quite some time to get through this bottle of foundation at the rate that I'm using it. What I do see myself repurchasing probably over and over again is this primer. This primer is fabulous, you guys. This video wasn't about this primer, but she is definitely a game changer when it comes to even pairing this with my powder foundation. Just absolutely love this product. So that being said, I hope this video was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Toodaloo.